Leadership, some basic leadership ideals to continue from the first part of this lecture. Um, you might have heard the phrase "fake it till you make it." That's good and it works sometimes, but leadership is about being. And so, if you do need to fake it, you need to make sure that eventually you do start to embody the ideals that you're faking. Because it's not about doing it. People can tell when you're faking it, people can tell when you're not sincere. Um, and doing something when you're not really feeling it is never as efficient, or it never goes as well, or people don't receive it as well. Like if you're giving someone constructive criticism and you don't like them, they can tell. But as a leader, you need to care for the people that you oversee. And so if you care about them, then they receive it a lot better. So the being is more important than the doing, because if you aren't it inside and then you do it, it doesn't work as well. I hope that makes sense. um, One of the big ways to measure your success as a leader is through the efforts of others. It's easy to mistake that and think that if you get your desired outcome, then you've been successful. And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes you do get your desired outcome, but sometimes you don't. Take Rudy, the movie Rudy, if you haven't seen it. It's a movie about a young man who's quite small. He's not like physically, he's not like a tall guy, he's not big, but his dream is to play for Notre Dame, to play football. Um, and it never gets good at football. And it's a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it. And I quote movies a lot just because I remember them really well. There's a lot of lessons to learn, so get used to that. But Rudy's a success, even though he never gets great at football. His effort is incredible, such that up until like just a couple of years ago, he was the only person who was ever carried off the Notre Dame stadium, um, because everyone just appreciated his effort so much, even though he never got great at it. That the coaches of Rudy can consider themselves successful because his effort was so monumental. And that's the way we should measure our success as well. If people that we oversee try their hardest, then we've been successful. If they don't, then yeah, we need room where there's room for improvement there. But if their efforts fall short, but they work really hard and they're doing their best, but their best efforts fall short, you're still successful, because the goal is to get them to be committed, not to like necessarily reach a goal. Anyway, and as a leader, it is our job to build bridges. All right. Second half of this lecture, we're going to talk about skills. The reading, we take a strengths test. And that's why we're talking about this, because it is good and important to understand our strengths so that we can build skills. As a leader, skills set you apart. They just do. Sometimes skills are what make a person a leader, like if they have technical skills, or like say you're leading a rock climbing wall, you have skills on the wall, and so you are capable then of being the leader. So it does often set you apart. If you don't have skills, then you will not be able to be successful as a leader, because people won't be able to honor your skills all that much, or honor your leadership role all that much, because you don't have the skills to back that up. But so yeah, it's one of the reasons that people actually follow a leader. Skills are a combination of knowledge and ability. You need to know what you're doing, but you also have to be able to do it. It's kind of like having a combination of street smarts and book smarts. For whatever realm that you're in, you need to have a combination of both in order to have skill. You have the knowledge, but then you practice. You might know like the back of your hand how to take an engine apart, but if you've never done it, then you can't do it. Then you don't have the skill. So you have to be able to know it and do it as well. And as a leader, like I said earlier, it's a dynamic process. You're never done. So you're always working to improve skills, gain skills, make weaknesses into strengths. Once you've got your strengths strengthened, that's what you should be doing as a leader. You're never done. 3 skill types: conceptual, interpersonal, and technical. Conceptual skills are kind of the big picture skills, like people that like work on the higher levels, like CEOs and stuff. For companies, they embody conceptual skills. That's their job. Their job is to observe and then act. to create a big picture or a vision statement for a company, analyzing things, assessing things, anticipating what might happen in the market. Creativity is so important when it comes to conceptual skills, because you're kind of coming up with the future of the company or the organization that you're in. And you're all about the values of the company. In fact, you embody them, and you might even be creating the values of the company, depending on how new the organization is. Interpersonal skills are pretty self-explanatory. It's all about relationships, group dynamics, working with people. Like, you're the one who's going to be resolving conflict and communicating with people. You'd be the hirer or the firer. You're the one who's going to be giving people feedback, making them feel welcome and want to be here. It's very difficult to work under someone who doesn't have interpersonal skills, because they don't care for the people they're overseeing. It's not comfortable, no matter how great they are otherwise. If they don't have interpersonal skills, it is just going to be a struggle to work under them, or with them for that matter. And then technical skills. This is actual doing of the work. Like I said earlier, technical skills, like I can climb a wall if I'm overseeing a rock climbing gym, or I know how to do computer programming if I work for a computer programming firm as a leader. You need to actually be competent in what you're doing. And this includes planning in whatever you're doing, implementation, so actually doing the work, evaluating it or assessing it, coming up with the logistics, dealing with the logistics. It's a lot of times the tedious stuff that leaders have to deal with, but they make it work. They make it happen. And then actually leading activities. Sometimes it is actually overseeing a group and getting them to act a certain way, playing games or team building activities. It depends, or like being a guide on a mountain. Any field of recreation, you'll be leading some sort of activity, even if it's just leading employees instead of participants. So those are the 3 skill types, and they're important to understand. You have to have all 3 in order to be successful. All right, that's it for what is leadership for the first lecture.